I'm Teisha Bader with Shalom TV's News Update. As talk of a possible ceasefire between Israel and Hamas continues in the media on Tuesday, officials in Jerusalem say that Israel has not agreed to any ceasefire deal as of yet. Various reports from Palestinian and other non-Israeli sources have said a truce could happen in a matter of hours. The Times of Israel reports that Egyptian officials told the BBC that a ceasefire will be announced by Egypt's President Mohamed Morsi in the next few hours. Reuters reports that Hamas official Ayman Taha told them that an agreement will be declared at 9 p.m. and go into effect at midnight. The Associated Press reports that another senior Hamas official said there was no ceasefire deal with Israel yet, but that an agreement was close. Meanwhile, the IDF has released the name of an IDF soldier who was killed by mortar fire on Tuesday in the Eshkol Regional Council. He is 18-year-old Corporal Joseph Partok. Partok was killed this morning in an attack from Gaza on a kibbutz in the Eshkol region. He was part of a unit that had arrived earlier in the week to back up forces on the Gaza border and was killed when several rockets hit the kibbutz. The Jerusalem Post reports that in a separate incident, a civilian was killed by Gazan rocket fire, reportedly a Bedouin from one of the unrecognized villages. At last count, 150 rockets were fired into southern Israel on Tuesday, including one fired at Jerusalem, which fell south of the city in a Palestinian-controlled area. And most recently, a rocket hit a 6-story apartment building in Rishon LeZion, injuring 4 lightly there. Another rocket hit a civilian in Ashkelon, causing serious injury. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu held a press conference on Tuesday with visiting UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. Netanyahu said there that if a long-term solution can be put in place through diplomatic means, then Israel would be a willing partner to such a solution. However, he added that Israel would do whatever was necessary to protect its people. Netanyahu further told Ban that Israel shares his concern for civilian casualties and that the IDF was taking great care to try and minimize such casualties using, quote, surgical strikes against Hamas terrorists. The IDF spokesperson reported that the IDF dropped leaflets over the Gaza Strip earlier Tuesday, warning civilians to stay away from Hamas operatives and infrastructure. The leaflets told residents they are required for their own safety to evacuate towards the central Gaza city so as to avoid being hurt in IDF airstrikes targeting Hamas terrorists. However, the IDF reported that the Hamas Interior Ministry spokesman told residents to ignore the warnings, saying it was part of psychological warfare on the part of the, quote, Zionist enemy in order to spread fear and panic. According to Al Jazeera, Hamas mosque loudspeakers told residents in Gaza to remain in their homes and, quote, stay steadfast. The Jerusalem Post reports that U.S. President Obama called Egypt's President Mohamed Morsi Tuesday to discuss the Gaza conflict. Obama reiterated the importance of de-escalating the violence and commended Morsi on the role he has played so far in such efforts. This was the third conversation between the two leaders in about 24 hours. The United States blocked a United Nations Security Council statement on Tuesday which condemned the escalating conflict between Israel and Hamas. Erin Pelton, who is a spokeswoman for the U.S. mission to the UN, said the UNSC statement failed to address the root cause of the conflict, meaning the missile attacks from Hamas. Pelton said, "We made clear that we would measure any action by the Security Council based on whether it supported the ongoing diplomacy toward de-escalation of violence and a durable outcome that ends the rocket attacks on Israeli cities. By failing to call for the immediate and permanent halt to rocket launches from Gaza into Israel, this press statement failed to contribute constructively to those goals," she said. As such, we could not agree to this statement. CNN reported Monday that the U.S. has positioned 3 warships in the eastern Mediterranean reportedly to evacuate Americans from Israel in the, quote, remote possibility the Israel-Gaza conflict requires it. The report says the 2,500 Marines on board the USS Iwo Jima, the USS New York, and the USS Gunston Hall had been scheduled to return to Norfolk, Virginia for Thanksgiving, but now are on standby near Israel. Two officials were quoted as saying that such a contingency was still seen as, quote, extremely remote. They added that the ships would not be used in combat. And finally, today, a show of support for Israel took place outside the Israel consulate in New York City. First, a press conference, which was sponsored by the Jewish Community Relations Council of New York, was attended by New York's elected officials and community leaders standing alongside members of the Consulate General of Israel as a sign of support for Israel's right to self-defense. The press conference was followed by a separate pro-Israel rally. The NYC Stand for Israel event was sponsored by many Jewish organizations, among them the Jewish National Fund, Stand With Us, Israel Forever Foundation, the World Jewish Congress, the Zionist Organization of America, Camera, Hadassah, and the New York Board of Rabbis. Also, the Conference of Presidents of Major American Jewish Organizations was a cooperating organization. And that's Shalom TV's News Update. I'm Teisha Bader.